this project is let's make the Strat better, basically. The reason being, I don't like Strats. I don't play them. I never play them. I don't like the way they sound. And then there's the other big problem, the volume knob's in the way. Got a pile of parts here, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to take it apart, rewire it and all that, and put it all back together. There may be swearing. Should be easy, shouldn't it? This is where I've just realised that it might go horribly wrong. Hello everyone, thanks for joining us. It's good to see you. So yeah, today, something a little bit different. I've got a pile of parts in front of me and a Stratocaster. It's not something you see very often, is it? Well, you know the reason for that, don't you? If you follow this channel, you probably know I'm not really a fan of Stratocasters. I never play them. I don't like them. I honestly don't like them. Stratocasters have got this hugely distinctive sound that, you know, has been recorded with huge success by some great players, of course, you know. But I always think a Stratocaster sounds like Hendrix or Dave Gilmour or Mark Knopfler or Nile Rodgers, you know. And every time I pick up a Strat, it doesn't sound like me. It sounds like one of those guys. Well, no, it doesn't. Sorry. No, that's very misleading. It doesn't sound anything like those guys playing wise, but the sound that comes out of it is that thing, isn't it? It's that twangy kind of thing, you know, that sound that Stratocasters make. It isn't me, to be honest with you. And beyond that, this bloody volume knob's always in the way. Every time I pick one up, I bash it with my hand because I'm not used to it, because Gibsons have them out the way. On a Strat, when I'm playing it, I constantly turn the volume down, which is quite annoying. So I don't like Stratocasters for that reason. So this one here, the Bullet, a great little guitar, £115. I reviewed this 18 months ago on the channel. And yeah, fabulous guitar. And these are, you know, these are great beginner guitars. And of course, as we know, they're played by professionals who do stadium tours, you know. They're a great little workhorse. It's a comfortable guitar to play. There's no disputing that. It's got, you know, it's got lovely curves. It's comfortable. It fits your body well. It stays in tune very well. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the sound and the knobs in the way. So what I thought we would do today is improve it. Yeah, this project is let's make the Strat better, basically. So yeah, I've kind of amassed these parts since I came up with the idea. I thought, well, I'll buy a few parts. So I bought a few parts for it. First thing we're going to do, well, we're going to change the pickups, obviously. And what we're going to do is we're just going to make a single P90 version, okay? And this is a P90 that I've had kicking around. It's out of my Gordon Smith guitar, actually. I changed the pickup in that. So I've had this sitting in the drawer doing nothing. So I thought, well, you know, that'd be good. We'll put it in the Strat. And we won't need any other pickups. So what I did is I've ordered I got a custom made scratch plate made from I can't tell you now. I've got it on eBay. You know, you can order them on eBay and specify what you want. I wanted a pick guard, obviously, that would fit a Squier Strat with a single P90 soap bar route, and I've also specifically asked to move the controls down, so we wouldn't have a volume control there. We've got one volume and one tone control, and that should be out of the way. See where I'm going with this? So yeah, got a soldering iron, got a pile of parts here, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to take it apart, rewire it and all that, and put it all back together. There may be swearing. If that's not for you, don't forget, timestamps are in the description box, so you don't have to sit through all that. You can skip forward to well, either when it's finished and hear what it sounds like, or whatever else has happened. It might be broken in a pile on the floor. I might have given up and started something else. So anyway, timestamps in the description box. If you want to join me for a ride, go and get a coffee, and let's get stuck in and see if we can make a better Stratocaster. Yeah, let's do it. Now this, of course, as you can see now, if you didn't know before, is a hardtail Strat. So, you know, the tremolo block that they have in Strats, which is said to contribute to the whininess of the sound, is not going to come into play on this. It's a hardtail, so I think that's a plus. Well, I hope that's a plus in terms of changing the dynamics of this guitar. Let's get this scratch plate off, and then what I'll do is I'll go through the parts that I'm going to put on, and we'll talk about, yeah, we'll talk about that. Where's my screwdriver? So yeah, great thing about Strats is all the gubbins comes out with the scratch plate. Should have my cloth really, because I'm going to scratch the guitar. So I've just got a desolder. There's an earth wire here that screws to the body from the volume pot. So I must remember to replace that in case it's important. And then you've got the earth wire that goes to the bridge there. I've got a desolder, and the grey wire there that goes to the jack. Yeah, jack, that's what I'm thinking of. Okay, let's fire up the soldering iron. Just put a little bit of solder on me tip to just make sure that these come off nicely. So that, we're done with that. I might use the knobs, or I might use some others, but that's it. That's a complete loaded scratch plate, which we can either sell or keep hold of for when this all goes wrong, and we'll just put it straight back. So that's getting out of the way. I'm just gonna pop this up. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but all of the screws on this are wonky. I think they make them quite quick, you know. They bang the screws in as quick as they can. There you go. I'm going to reuse the jack socket. Looks all right. It's like a normal one. So, I'm going to move the guitar out of the way now. Oh no, actually, I'm not, because before I do that, this is where I've just realised that it might go horribly wrong already. So, well, the first thing is, hopefully you've ordered a scratch plate that does fit. That looks pretty good, actually. Yeah, all the holes seem to line up. I mean, obviously cheap guitar, so if it doesn't, you know, and you do have to jiggle them around a bit, it's not the end of the world. The other thing that I just started to get worried about is whether or not there's enough room for that pickup there. It's not. Look at that. That's going to catch. It's not going to go. Bollocks. Oh, hang on, it is. Oh. Just. We're okay, that just fits. I've done this before. I thought, oh, I'll put a P90 in that guitar without thinking that the route is often not big enough. So you end up having to drill the body. But on this, it goes. The thing is, I'm going to have to just, actually the pick guard doesn't fit the bridge properly there. If you can see that. I think you can. I just need to, I'm going to need to do a little bit of modding on that there. There you go. It's just a little bit out. Apart from that, it all lines up and the pickup goes in, so good. Could have been worse. I'm back. So yeah, I've managed to, by use of hacksaw and Dremel, just file away that, cut and file away that, so it now fits neatly in there. And now I can see actually that most of the holes line up, but a couple of them don't. I think that one does. I think this one's, a couple here are a bit on the piss, so I might have to just re-drill those, but we'll get it all wired up first. So yeah, the pickup fits, that fits near enough. So now what we're going to do is get the guitar off the bench to start with. Scratch plate. Okay. So pots first of all. So I got these, I bought these are CTS pots. Now I'm using a linear one for the tone and an audio pot for the volume. I'll briefly tell you what I understand to be the difference. Linear is what it says really, linear. So the roll off is linear, it's constant from 10 to 0, which they say is good for tone. And audio, it's got a different taper. It's a little bit more immediate apparently, and it varies through the sweep. And apparently, because of the way that the human ear hears sound, an audio pot is better for volume. Whether or not a linear is better for tone or not is the subject of wild debate. And I'm not saying either way, I don't know. This is part of an experiment. I decided to try an audio pot for the volume and a linear pot for the tone. Let's see how it sounds. And then it'll be part of mine and some of our learning experience as to whether or not you want linear or audio pots. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. This is all a bit of an experiment. Okay, that looks all right. I've put a nut on the bottom just to get the protrusion amount correct. Is that the word I'm looking for? It's the word I used. Okay. Same with this one. Oh, straight through. There you go. Lovely. Just check for fit again. It's not the way, is it? What am I doing? Yeah, okay, no problems so far. Now these are 500k pots, which tend to be used with P90s all the time. Although P90s are single coils. And now I'm going to measure these. So they're both 500k. I just wanted to show you this because I worked out how to do it this morning. Put your meter on the ohms reading, and I've found that you need it on the highest setting. And then you measure between the hot one and the other one, the centre one. And this one weighs and measures, it's fully up, 476k, and obviously I'm turning that down now, and hopefully you can see that meter in the camera. Yeah, you can. It says no, you see, there you go. 475 now. And if we do the same with the tone one, we get, so that actually reads more than 500k. This one reads 530. And again, you wind it down to 0. There you go. So I don't know a lot about potentiometers, but I do know they vary. You know, the readings vary, and these are rated at 500k, but as you can see, they both vary a fair bit from that. You know, there's about 50k between these two. Don't think that's because one's linear and one's audio. They say that 550k is a good reading, actual reading for a 500k pot, and actually some people sell 550k pots because they say they're better. So these are what I got. This is what we're going to use. So we've got a single P90, single volume, single tone. So I thought we'd go for a standard Gibson Les Paul Junior wiring. And obviously online, there's loads of schematics, loads of images of how to wire it. Should be easy, shouldn't it? You know, there's so many different types. It's actually quite confusing. I've spent quite a long time going, well, what shall I do? And looking at different guitars I've got, they're quite different. So eventually I found two that are the same from reputable people. One was Six String Supplies in the UK, and the other one was Northwest Guitars, and they both sell a load of this stuff, and they're both reputable, and they both agree. And I'll put these on the screen for you so you can see, with my version of it anyway, which is, you know, pretty straightforward. And that's what it is. I'm not going to try and talk you through that. You can see those on the screen. That's how I'm going to wire this with a 0.22 UF cap, which I happen to have an orange drop cap. I've got some wire. I've got a pickup. I've got a scratch plate. That's going to go in like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to start soldering. I'll speed it up. I won't bore you with all of it. I might stop and talk you through bits and pieces if I think it might be interesting for you. You can always skip forward, you know that, guys. Okay, let's get stuck in. So that's tinning. That's putting a bit of solder on, which makes it easier. It's where I check what I've done so far. It's easy to get this stuff the wrong way round. I think I'm good so far. And I'm assuming red's hot and black's earth. And I'm not cutting the wires because if I want to put them in it, take it out and put it in another guitar later, that can be a mistake. So, another quick check. As you can see, my soldering is not that neat. It's quite messy, to be honest with you. It's quite embarrassing when I look at, like, you know, Mac at Monty's. Look at his wiring job. It's just fantastic. And here it's like, yeah, yeah, pretty messy. But hopefully it'll work. I'm just going to sort of look again and just check. I haven't got any shrink wrap. I said shrink wrap. Heat shrink. Yeah, heat shrink. It's not shrink wrap. You want to put shrink wrap on these, that won't work. I'm going to put a little bit of insulating tape just between that cap wire and the back of the pot, because if they rub, you can get shorts. I'm going to do that, and I've got the pickup wired correctly, I hope. I've got the earth wire from the bridge. to there, to there as well. I mean, it looks okay. We'll have to wait and see. I've got to wire the jack up now, so I'm going to flip it over, put it in place, screw that back in. That's what I've got to do now. I've got to get a bit of foam or something to put under the pickup to raise it up. Let's go and find something. So I've gone for that. Give it a bit of bounce. Okay. Let's give it a go. There you go. I think that's going to work actually. Oops, catch those wires. You know what? I think what we better do now is test it and see if it works before we go any further. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea before we start screwing anything down, don't you? So the thing that always gets me with this is kind of earth loop hums. Here we go. Right. What am I doing? Doesn't work. I'm back. I'm back. It's tomorrow. Yeah. This is what happens. As you saw, it wasn't working. It wasn't working. So, you know, I'd wired it up. I'd used two wiring diagrams as a reference, both which appeared to be the same. And I'd wired it up. I'd followed them diligently, wired it up as best I could. And there's nothing. It's dead. So I spent a while then, you know, checking the continuity of all the connections to check, you know, everything was communicating as it should. It was all fine. Dead, nothing. I thought maybe the pickup's dead, so I tried a different pickup. Still nothing. I swapped some wires around to see if I'd got it wrong, if I got something wrong. Asked about a face. Still nothing. So, what can you do? I started again, basically. I took it all apart, disconnected everything, started from scratch, and used a different wiring diagram this time. So this time I used a Monty's diagram, this one here, up on screen for you, which is a little bit different. So I followed that, and this is what I've ended up with. And I must admit, it looks a lot neater now than it did before. Let me get a close-up of that. That's what it looks like now. I'm quite pleased with that, actually. I mean, I know it looks a bit amateurish, but yeah, it'll do. Now, not only does that look a lot better, but it also works. I'll show you. Right, well, it was working when I tested it yesterday before I went home. That's what we want to hear. It's live, so we won't. I don't think we can really check the tone until it's all back together. But you know, fingers crossed. It's looking good. This is what happens. You know, this is what happens when. Well, it seems to be what happens when I do these jobs anyway. Half the time, fine. The other half the time, something's wrong. And Let me get this out, hang on. The frustrating thing is, I don't really know what the problem was. It didn't appear to be anything to do with what I'd done, so I can only assume that the wiring diagrams, there was something wrong with them. I don't know, you know, you saw them on the screen earlier. Maybe someone could spot something that was wrong in these. You assume they're going to be correct. We may never know. Anyway, I'm going to put this back together now. Then we'll take a reading from the pickup. Then we'll put the strings on and plug it in. And then, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. See if we get that far first. Okay, so, right. That's great. All these screws have gone back in and they're no wonkier than they were when they started. So good stuff. Okay. Now what I need is I need to screw that down. These are these long screws that should, well, hopefully go through and get a little bit of purchase into the wood underneath. So then I can just adjust it a little bit. And you see the foam gives it a springiness, so I've got a bit of adjustment on it. Should work. This is how they do it in a lot of guitars. So these are self-tappers. Okay. Right, pickup reading. So this is a Gordon Smith P90. As I say, this came out of my Gordon Smith guitar. And this was made, wound in England. I think it's Manchester. I'm not sure where they are, but they're up north somewhere some years ago. So let's see what it measures. 9.90 a kilo ohms, and that is 8.58 Henrys. Okay, there you go. That's what it is. Right, so all it needs now is some knobs and a set of strings. So while I'm sorting that out, let's have a listen to it from the original review that I did ages ago. See what it sounded like then, and then we'll come back and we'll plug it in and see what it sounds like now. Let's do it. In betweeny, you've got a I think we recognise that. And then in the middle position, you've got your okay, the moment of truth. Here it is. Looks good, doesn't it? I think so. This is what it sounds like. Okay, a P90 Stratocaster. Here we go. Okay, that's full chat. Princeton 65, the tweed one, dimed a little bit. No pedals on that, that's just the pickup on 10. I've got on the, I'm going to use a rat pedal today, you'll see when I step on that. Okay, but at the moment it's not on. So that's pick up on 10. Let's just dial it back a little bit. This is what you have to do. If you pick up a single P90 guitar, it's the law, you have to do this. It's the law. There you go. Right. So, well, sounds a bit different, doesn't it? Oh, I love P90s. Right, so let's just see what the tone control's like. I know, because I've done that already. It's very disappointing, actually. So I'm going to be inclined to change that for an audio taper. And maybe change the cap as well, because it's quite dark. So, you know, ongoing project, I think, this. So what do you think? Does it sound better? I think so. I think so. I didn't think that sounded quite so much like a Stratocaster, did it? And it definitely sounded like me playing it, which is a good or a bad thing, depending on your point of view. But for sure, yeah, I mean, it roared, didn't it? It was a little P90 rock monster. And it, look at that, it looks killer, doesn't it? I'm well chuffed with that. Witch hat knobs, my favourite knobs, as you should have realised by now. Yeah, wow. The tone control didn't work. Linear pot didn't work very well. I'm assuming that might have been why. So I might change that. Apart from that, rocking. I'd like to maybe experiment and change the tailpiece at some point. I fancy putting one on which has got maybe chunky brass saddles on it to give it a little bit more a bite, a bit more zing maybe. Apart from that, great. All these parts, okay. So scratch plate, a couple of pots and some wire, about 40 quid, which is about what, $45 in today's money, today's exchange rate. And obviously I had the pickup spare, I had that, you know, in the drawer, so you'd have to factor in that if you fancied it. But you know, if you fancy doing something like this, it's dead easy really, although, you know, as you saw, it can be a bit frustrating. Things can go wrong, but you just got to have a little bit of patience and try and work out what it was, you know. And I suppose I've learnt that over the years. You know, I still don't know what that problem was. I assumed that those wiring diagrams were right. They may or may not have been. So don't discount things like that being wrong to start with. It may just been a short that I didn't notice. But at the end of the day, we started again and we got it right. And it sounded fucking great. It sounded, way better than I expected it to. I thought it might still sound like a Strat for some reason. I didn't really know whether or not the way that they're made, how much that contributes to that whine. I'm delighted to discover that actually I think we've changed this quite a bit, to be honest with you. We did have it, you know, dimed quite a lot, but it cleaned up a bit, you know, and you could, you know, you hear the clean sound, but it didn't sound, you know, as maybe a hint of quack, but, you know, it was pretty different. So result, I think we can all agree we've made a better Stratocaster. Yeah, well done, guys, well done. Okay, so there you go. That's it. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us. Come back, same time, same place next week, and find out what we're up to then. I look forward to it. Cheers for now. Ta-da.